Tarot, and I'm here today to talk about being an empath on another episode of Enlightened Empaths. So I'm trying to just film as much of this as I can while I have the ball rolling, while I still have some light outside. The struggle is real. So, a huge topic, and I don't know if I'm going to get through all of it today, that I want to talk about is the idea of skeptics when it comes not only for psychic abilities. There's going to be skeptics for everything, but I'm talking specifically to the empath skeptics. So maybe you're a person who has, somehow stumbled upon some, remember stumble upon? Oh my god, forever ago. Okay, anyway. Maybe in the past you stumbled upon a Pinterest board or a thing and you're like, oh my god, oh, what's this? Empath. Okay, first of all, psychic, no. Second of all of these things you're listing sound like normal human things. Like, oh, they sound like normal human things. That's not real. What are you talking about? Being an empath. Why do you think you're special? Okay. So, I'm reading my notes. So the reason I want to talk to you guys today, the empath skeptics, is because I feel like your point is valid. Okay? That's really what I want to say, and I feel like a lot of empaths will be like, how dare you? Okay, how dare you say that these people have a valid point? When, we as empaths have been kind of drowning in our own emotions and the emotions of others for a whole life, and someone's basically saying that, our feelings aren't valid. How can you agree with them? So, I'm not necessarily agreeing with them, but I'm saying I understand their perspective. And I think as empaths, as someone who identifies as being an empath, I have a duty to meet other people in my world at a halfway point and to, share my perspective and also listen to yours. So I think in order for there to be understanding with anything and any topic, whether it's religion or politics or anything that really stirs people up, you need to be able to listen to people who don't agree with you. So when empaths get stuck in the vortex of their own voices, which is, I will go into a whole video on this. I call it the Hannah rant. But basically, I just really believe that empaths have a tendency to kind of like bond together and, start talking about how they feel victimized, and then they actually kind of isolate themselves from the world because they feel like they've been so hurt and by other people who do it subconsciously. So these other people aren't realizing that they're hurting us, but because we feel hurt and we feel like we can't handle, these intense emotions, we tend to like create this us versus them, and then just completely want to like, make our voice louder than theirs, and we start banding together with other people who identify as empaths, and we're like, why does no one understand us? Blah blah blah, and it turns into this like angsty, martyry vortex that has now manifested onto the internet in the form of like thousands of YouTube videos, maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds, and Pinterest things that are just crazy, and articles on Facebook, and I will go into this in a whole other video, which is I think probably going to be next, but the reason why it worries me so much is that when a skeptic reads these articles, they're going to be like, y'all are crazy, okay? you're crazy. Because they'll read these articles that are written in a voice that is so self absorbed, so self serving, so not written from a healthy heart space, and is written from a very destructive mindset, that it immediately will alienate the people who aren't experiencing these things, and they will become a skeptic, and they'll be like, that's so weird, like these just sound like people who can't handle everyday life. So if you're an empath watching this video, I'm sure that you have experienced telling someone, hey, I'm empathic, and you've gotten the look that they're like, what's that? And then maybe you're not sure exactly how to explain it. And if you're a skeptic, perhaps you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or child, someone in your life who you care about who is identifying themselves as an empath and is trying to explain to you what this means, and you just don't understand. Maybe you're just like, okay, is this a phase? Is this something that I can help with? Should I be concerned? Is this normal? Is this like, what's going on? Because you want to know the truth, and if the truth doesn't seem like real or believable, then your mind is going to go somewhere else. So I'm here to say that I feel for the people who maybe are in that situation and aren't sure what to believe. And I want to try to help you and hold your hand to understand these things a little bit better. And really just ask you to have an open mind. It's something that's a lot easier said than done. I feel like, people always say, oh, have an open mind. Oh. But it's hard. It's really hard when you've gone your whole life believing something, and then someone challenges it out of nowhere, especially someone that you love. So, having an open mind is hard, and I think if you're a skeptic and you just clicked this video because you're concerned or worried about someone that you love, I really applaud you. I really thank you for listening, and I hope that they thank you too, because when we talk about spirituality or God or anything that's not tangible, it can be a challenge for some people. That's okay. So let's get right into it. I have a problem with rambling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Pinterest. I think I need to do that because I've been talking a lot of shit about these Pinterest articles, and I want to pull one up, whatever. Empath. Okay, so first of all, my first point is the very first things that pop up when you just search the word empath. So there's two different ones. There's one that's I'm gonna save it so I can put it there later. But there's one, and it's just like a picture. It's just words actually, and it just is the top is just empaths be like. I really love when we just get reduced to a meme. Okay, anyways, and then another one's called empath things. So, like this one, it says, empath things number 1. You are always tired, constantly absorbing the emotions of those around you, leaves you mentally and energetically exhausted, even if you don't realize it's occurring. Experiencing a wide range of a variety of emotional states throughout the day, then having an overactive dream state at night offers little time for a mental relief. Okay, so I want to talk about this. First reason being, if someone who is not, and actually the comment underneath is a huge part of this. The comment underneath from the person that posted this, it just says, so true, ... but they just want to call me emotional. Pfft. They literally wrote out the word pfft. Okay, so let's talk about this, because just in that one post, when I first went to Pinterest, is literally accurately describing the two sides of the coin that I'm talking about, that I want people to start seeing eye to eye, which is why I made this video. Because you have the one side of the coin, which is the empath, who identifies as an empath, acknowledges that this is occurring and that it's not normal, it's outside of the range of accepted, emotional and mental feelings, whatever, that it's kind of a psychic ability because you're absorbing other emotions around you. And then you have the flip side of the coin, which is, basically they're kind of like calling out the skeptic and saying, you're just calling me emotional. So my biggest problem with this for empath things is the fact that, they're basically saying that if you're an empath, you will always be tired, always tired, because you're constantly absorbing other people's emotions. You're always mentally exhausted, energetically exhausted, and they're not giving you a solution. They're basically saying, if you are an empath, you are doomed. This is the way your life always is. And not only is this the way your life is, but you kind of expect people to understand that about you. And it's almost like, you need to understand I'm an empath. Like, I'm tired all the time. How dare you be mad at me because I'm tired all the time, And without really, which is like the whole victim mentality that I just have a problem with, because it's like, you as the empath are not doing anything to not be tired, and you're also not explaining yourself to the people that are just calling you emotional. If someone is kind of saying that the way you feel is invalid, instead of just brushing them off and being like you're a hater, maybe you should have an educated, talk with them and be like, actually, you know what, this is XYZ. So that is what inspired me to start Enlightened Empaths, because I just feel so passionately about enlightening and empowering my co-empaths or fellow empaths, and getting all the shit off of Pinterest, that just feels victim-y and ridiculous. And there's some that are good on here. I'm trying to read them. So there's one right here that's like kind of nice, like Empath 101. And it says, what are empaths? Psychically tuned to the emotional experience of a person, place, or animal. A psychic ability to sense the emotions of others, a highly developed skill. Often aware of the health and state of mind of loved ones, even from long distances. Sensitive to the visible behaviors such as body language, movement, tone of voice, chosen and avoided words, and logic used. Feeling sensories are extraordinarily heightened, and emotional empaths can potentially absorb negative emotions, a psychic sponge. So that's like a really great overall picture of what it means to be an empath. So if you are an uneducated skeptic, that is really the true definition of being an empath. I personally can say I've experienced all of the above, and that I always have. And I wish you were sitting next to me so you could ask me questions, because it's really hard to guess maybe what part of that is harder to believe than others. Like, for instance, some people, okay, so it said psychically tuned into the emotional experience of a person, place, or animal, and also health state. So I I'm actually pretty tuned into like the health states of people that I'm close to and animals. So before I knew what being an empath was, for instance, this is an example. When I was in high school and growing up, whenever my mom would get migraines, if I was at school, I would always have a headache. And I would get in the car, and I have such specific memories of this. I would get in the car, and I'd be like, no, I'd be like, how was today? And I'd be like, oh my God, I had a headache all day. And she'd just look at me and be like, I had a migraine all day today. And I'd be like, oh, that's so weird. And then also, I love animals so much. Love them. Love dogs. Every dog I love. Um, and there was one specific time a year ago, and this is so obviously I'm already like have acknowledged the fact that I'm an empath. I've been working on my intuitive gifts. I have acknowledged the fact that I can identify people's ailments and illnesses, not like super precisely, but psychically, that is something that I can do naturally. But I had never really done it with animals before. And I was walking down the street, and there was like an elderly dog. I was with my dad. We were walking down the street, and there was like this elderly dog like tied up to like a storefront, and he was just laying, like he or she, I don't really know. She was just laying there, and I like love seeing dogs, so every time I walk past one, I like want to pet it. And so with empaths, like, or at least with me, I know it like works through your heart chakra. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of going on like this crazy tangent for people who maybe aren't as comfortable with this material. But basically, like, my heart is like where I like open up to other people and receive their energy. So the second, so like let's say a dog is sleeping, if it like looks at you and like acknowledges your presence and you kind of connect with its eyes and like you are kind of like, hi, I love you, and you're like giving off that I love you vibe, usually they will instantly respond to it because you're greeting them in like a loving way. You kind of are like approaching them with an open, like your body language is open, your heart space is open, and you are approaching them, and they actually read that and they're like, oh, this person is nice and approachable, and I will let them pet me. So I like, it was kind of sleeping, and I was like, oh, and I like walked up and I was like, hi, and I like bent down to pet it, and the second it like looked up at me and kind of like made eye contact and was like, hi, I like like where was it in my body? I like bent down, and I think it was my leg. I got like this like, yeah, I got this like instant like very uh like creaky kind of like arthritis-y pain in my leg, and I went, oh, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I knew because normally when dogs like when you greet them, they're like happy to see you, so they'll stand up, to like to come, like they want you to pet them, so they'll come stand up, and the dog didn't. It stayed laying down, but it still kind of was like, oh, pet me. So I was like, oh my God, and then I like went down and I like pet it, and I was like, hey, but I was like really gentle. And I was like, okay. And I like backed away. And I was like, oh my God, like what was that? And I was like, that dog definitely had really bad arthritis, which is why it couldn't get up to say hi to me. So, long story short, when that kind of stuff happens for empaths, it's usually so fast that you like don't know what's going on. For people that are not aware of their empathic ability, it's just the heightened level of things, like where someone who may not be or identify as being empathic walks into like a room where there was just a huge fight, let's say, and they kind of feel that tense energy, and that's normal. That's like a normal range of like feeling what's going on. You're like, oh God, because like your intuition kicks in. You're like fight or flight. Is this a dangerous situation? I know something's weird. People are acting strange. Everyone has that natural ability. That really the only difference between empaths and normal people is that the line is like just a little bit further, where instead of just kind of sensing, ooh, like something is a little tense or whatever. If you are a physical empath, if someone got punched, you may be like, oh my god, why does my like back hurt? It's so weird. Or maybe you'll start crying, or you might start feeling like you have this like catch in your throat, because I'm like, my nose is so itchy because, oh my gosh, and it's like getting red too. There's like all these flowers sitting right in front of me. And I thought my allergies would be okay, but they're not, because I'm about to sneeze. My nose is so red. Okay, anyways, so an empath, let's say if there's a huge fight and the girl ran out crying, an empath may walk into the room and start like tearing up, or get a catch in her throat, or start getting a panic attack because whoever was just there like had this like crazy emotional release, and like that empath was there to catch it. So that is why it's so hard for skeptics to really wrap their mind around that, because we grow up and are raised and spend our whole lives believing that the line is right here. These are my emotions, this is that person's. The line is here, that's where it ends, this is where it begins. I can see the definite line. And empaths are asking you to move that line, or to take that line away completely. So it's uncomfortable, it's weird, it's confusing. It's basically throwing out everything you've ever believed. So it's hard, and it's also hard because, once again, I'm going to say this a million times, it's not always totally out of the scope of normality. A skeptic could look at me and be like, well, maybe you just got a cramp in your leg the second that you went to pet the dog. But, I know what a cramp feels like. I know, well, okay, this doesn't sound weird. I've experienced other people's arthritis so many times that I know what arthritis feels like in my joints. So it's like, I know that it wasn't a cramp pain. I know I don't have arthritis, but I know that I have been around enough elderly people in my past and have felt that like that feeling, to be able to identify what that dog was feeling, and to kind of pick up on what it was. And I also have to say, I found it very interesting. So this is for all of my psychic people out there who may be watching, or people who are really working on their intuition. So when I initially like identified myself as an empath and was really working on kind of like creating that boundary, so I wasn't getting this constant like influx of like these tiring other people's emotions, I like got really good at closing myself off to like the normal public range of emotions that are around me, and not be like exhausted by it every day. That is possible. You don't have to live your whole life being tired. It just became so natural to me to kind of protect myself from being overwhelmed by human emotions. And I never really thought to protect myself from animals, because I love them so much, I identify with them so much, that I didn't really think about it. So after living for 6 months as like practicing self-care around, as far as like emotions go, it was like such an interesting, like mind-bending experience to kind of have my intuition almost get like challenged, because it was just like this immediate feeling, and like just like a psychic download basically. And I was like, oh my god, like I almost kind of forgot what it was like to be like experiencing what empaths experience every day, because I've been protecting myself so well. And to just like have that like little reminder of like, whew, it's literally like a jolt to your system. It's like an electric shock, which is why empaths struggle with dealing with it so much. And so like I hope the skeptics out there can kind of understand my story and understand that, take that experience, multiply it by humans times 100, and that is what an empath who's suffering deals with every day. Every social interaction feels like they're being bombarded, and it's really, really, really hard to get to a manageable state. It's possible. I'm standing here right now. And I will go through, the steps that I took to get to that point. But it really is just the intensity, the magnitude of what empaths are experiencing, and the frequency. That is what makes it so difficult. So, and I think most empaths don't have the energy at the end of the day to convince the haters, to convince the skeptics, or to convince the people who are worried about them. Because, like, I have lived parts of my life where it has taken too much energy to speak. Where I have, when I was younger, just been so emotionally and mentally drained that I just have memories of like sitting in the car with my mom driving and her trying to talk to me and just getting words out was like so hard. And I feel like she didn't, like, she's very naturally talkative, so I don't think she really knew. I think she just thought, I was being quiet, but you know, it's serious, and you can really just get like completely bogged down by it. And I just, like, I remember how hard it would be to just speak, like just to talk. And it's not necessarily depression, it's not necessarily anxiety. Yes, it might be those things because you've been dealing with these heavy emotions for so long, and maybe some of these emotions are yours, some of them are other people, but combined it's like this whole giant weight on your shoulders. So it's like I can't blame the people that are writing these things on Pinterest, but I'm really trying to pinpoint the things that I see as being problematic and talk about them and get it all out there and be the voice for the empaths who are too tired to speak, and tell the skeptics out there, tell the people who are blissfully living with only their emotions that they have a gift as well, which is boundaries. And they maybe need to embrace a little bit of the empath in themselves and at least try to meet us halfway. At least try to understand where we're coming from, and at least be open to the idea that this is a real thing. At least be open to the idea that there's some truth to what we're saying, and that regardless of whether or not it's real or scientifically proven or anything like that, that it is negatively affecting a person's life, and that maybe they like need your help to get through it, so they can be their best selves. So, long story short, again, we are going to continue on this little chart because I actually kind of like it. So I told you what an empath is, and then it goes into traits. So it says traits of an empath: highly expressive in all areas of emotional connection. If you can't tell, I'm a little expressive. Talks openly and frankly about themselves. Once again, me. Have few problems talking about their feelings. That can be true, but not always. Some people are, so actually, like, I'll get more into this later, but some empaths are really good at talking about other people's emotions because they're like tuned into it. So they are like, oh, I know exactly what you're feeling, but then they hide what they feel themselves. So there's like there's a mixture there. Resents any time they lack self-control. That could be true some cases. Generally nonviolent and non-aggressive. That is a okay, so they say generally, so I am going to say it's a general statement. I do think that it's true, and I'm actually going to get into that topic in another video. So the non-aggression can actually go and like, I don't really agree with have few problems about talking about their feelings, because some actually do. And there's some empaths who are in the closet tend to be non-aggressive to the point where they actually are, what's the word? Oh, suffocate. Okay, yeah. All right, that's exactly what I was looking for. So, non-aggression can actually turn into a negative when empaths will try to stifle emotional outbursts or emotional situations, or try to stifle reactions. They'll also try to not suffocate, but just try to silence it. And it's really God, that's not even the word still. Repress. Yeah, so basically, nonviolence and non-aggression in empaths can actually manifest as a negative thing when the person is trying to just completely repress the emotions, not only of themselves but of others. So, and I'm going to get into a whole other video about this, so I don't really want to talk about it too much now, but because another thing that they list here is being peacemakers. Peacemakers, good listeners, problem solvers, that all goes under the category of being non-aggressive and non-violent. It's all this one giant attitude where they're trying to keep the peace and trying to keep everyone at an even equilibrium and an even emotional level, keep everybody chill, keep everybody low, because that is an ideal situation for an empath. If no one is expressing emotion, that is when an empath is, there's the few times when an empath is at peace. So there's a lot of closeted empaths out there who actually subconsciously repress, emotional outbursts or anything, or real emotional release from people around them. Like maybe, and I find that so interesting because it kind of doesn't, you wouldn't think it makes sense, but it's a coping mechanism. So it's really a coping mechanism of empaths who have lived their whole life being an empath but have never been taught how to truly manage, how to take the emotions in a healthy way and to release them in a healthy way. And so, and actually, resents any time they lack self-control. That totally goes into it too. But, and it's because, they want to keep everyone at that quiet equilibrium. And they don't want an outburst, even if it's an excited outburst or wow, someone's excited or fun or happy or whatever, and it because it jars them and it upsets them and it totally throws off their it's hard to bounce back from, and it throws off their emotional balance. So I think the sign, let's say, if there's a person in their 50s or even, if there's an adult out there who doesn't know what being an empath is, but maybe over time has become the kind of person who maybe used to be outgoing and fun and whatever, and, they got older and, emotional outbursts, whether it's crying or laughing or yelling, just upsets them. And they don't like it, and it's not that they don't like fun or they don't but they just like the peace and quiet. That is a coping mechanism of someone who is empathic. I just, oh my gosh, I feel like when you see a list like this, it's like, okay, you know, I get it. I guess some people do feel that way. My child or my wife, yeah, she's a good problem solver. She's a good listener. She is a peacemaker. Those are all things I love about her. But, like, why does that make her an empath? Like, why is it that, being a peacemaker or being chill or go with the flow and being a thinker and, that, how does that make her an empath? Like, that makes her the person that I love. So, that video is really gonna just be me continuing that topic of why those like little emotional traits, which seem insignificant, actually have a deep root in like when you are an empath for a long time, and how that actually has manifested into coping mechanisms and the way that you just interact with the world. Just saying. Okay, so tips for empaths. Tips for empaths. And this is what I like, okay? Healthy tips. This is all I want. I don't want any more of this. I'm gonna live in my martyrdom for the rest of my life. No, we need some tips. We need some healthy advice. Come on, empaths. Let's get empowered. Let's go take a bath. That's tip number one. Sleep on it. Drink juice. I'm not really sure why. Okay, juice. Watch what you eat. Take breaks from people. That's a good one, but easier said than done. Spend time outside. Yes. Practice breathing exercises and meditation. And when in doubt, clear the crap. I guess so. I mean, okay, so they're like a little general. But yeah, for the most part, those are all good tips. So we'll give tips in another video because I have some more. So let's see. And now I'm just gonna get lost in the whole motherfucking Pinterest world here. There's empaths affirmations. Those could be helpful.